Greetings, fellow RotoBallers. It is week 9. It's time for our starts and sits, and there are a ton of bye teams this week. So, Dave, let's go to my QB start of the week. Not happy about it. He's been bad the last couple of games, but he's going up against a Raiders defense that's allowing the most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. It is Trevor Lawrence. The Raiders, they have allowed multi-touchdowns to every single quarterback they have faced. 17-plus fantasy points to every single quarterback they have faced. Trevor Lawrence, bounce back. Start him up. Green light.
Love the call, Joey. The Raiders handed out a QB1 performance to Davis Mills. And move on to sits, Joey. There's two things you can't trust, okay? Gas station sushi and 2022 Matt Stafford on the road. You sit Matt Stafford. Rams look lost. Even after their bye week, they had a week to get it together. They did not. As of recording this, we don't know the status of Cooper Kupp. If he misses, no way you start him. But even if he plays, can you trust a guy who on the road, checks notes, has 0 touchdowns? Now he's taking on Tampa Bay, a team who yielded less than 14 points to both the Packers and the Falcons, 2 struggling offenses, and guess what? The Rams, a struggling offense.
Yeah, and this is going to seem counterintuitive for our tight end start of the week, but it's a bye week. There's 6 teams on bye tight end position. It stinks, so I'm going with Tyler Higbee versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If Stafford is going to be a sit, he's going to be checking it down to the tight end, and a tight end that averaged 6.6 targets through his first 5 games. He's fallen off the map the last 2, but he's going up against a Buccaneers defense that is allowing the 10th most fantasy points to tight ends this year. So Tyler Higbee, I think he's a good start this week.
Now let's move over to something a little more fun. Wide receivers,
Please.
okay? This is a guy who I was very high on all offseason, Joe, and made me look very foolish the first 5 weeks. But now, in his last 2 games, has become the guy who's showing signs of that old fantasy gold mine, Juju Smith-Schuster. Last 2 games, 113 yards and a tutty, and then 124 yards and a tutty, averaging 8 targets from some guy named Patrick Mahomes. Okay, he's pretty good. Coming off a bye to take on a Tennessee secondary that is giving up big plays each and every week. Chiefs should have their way.
Yeah, let's move it over to wide receiver sits this week. I'm sitting all wide receivers for the Colts versus the Patriots, Pittman and Paris. Look, Paris had a couple of touchdowns for 2 weeks in a row, did not find the end zone this week. Pittman still continues to struggle, not putting up big numbers, going up against a Patriots defense that is allowing the 9th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers, only 2 touchdowns allowed over the last 4 games, and have yet to allow a single 100 wide receiver receiving game to a wide receiver yet this year. Sit them both. I'm mad about it. Sit both wide receivers.
Let's go to running backs, Joey. This one's so easy. Check out the math. You start Aaron Jones versus Detroit because you start anybody and everybody versus Detroit each and every week, okay? But aside from that, let's go to his history. Are you ready for this, Joey? In his last 3 meetings with the Lions, Jones has averaged 142 all-purpose yards and 2.5 tutties. Good grief. And in his last 2 games of this year, he has back-to-back top 9 finishes at the running back position. You fire him up in daily and in season long.
That's a great call. It could be a league winner. Let's move over to our running back sits. I'm going to sit all the Jets running backs versus the Buffalo Bills. Now, that very Aaron Jones just popped over 100 yards against the Bills, but still, they've been stout. They've not allowed a single other running back to post more than 47 rushing yards against them. 4th fewest overall fantasy points to opposing running backs. Is James Robinson really in the mix? The Jets are going to have to throw the ball in this game, and they only put up 51 team rushing yards last week. I do not like either Michael Carter or James Robinson this game. Sit them both. Now, everyone take a deep breath. It's the bye week. We're going to get through this together. Here's your 60-second start sit recap coming right now. Here it is, your RotoBaller Week 9 start sits. We're going with Trevor Lawrence versus a bad Raiders secondary. This is a bounce-back game for Trevor Lawrence. Start him up. We're also going with Tyler Higbee. He was getting the targets early on in the season. Stafford is struggling. We think he targets him in this game versus the Buccaneers. Start him. Juju Smith-Schuster back on the map versus the Tennessee Titans. Fire him up. And Aaron Jones, look at the matchup. Look at the history. Green light. Big time. Start Aaron Jones.
On to sits. Matt Stafford has been abysmal on the road, so you're going to sit him at Tampa this week. Now I got a trio and a duo for you to sit. You're going to sit all the Colts wide receivers in Foxborough, and all the Jets running backs are a nightmare matchup with the Bills. So you're going to want to subscribe, so you can win that league.